start in time. And I start with a procedure that all of you most probably have had several times. So I start with saying some safety instructions. So these premises are have a voice-guided evacuation alarm. Therefore, leave the premises immediately if you are prompted to do so. The premises have 2 emergency exits. One is there and one is up there. Look around in case of emergency and choose the one that is closest to you. In case of any emergency, there is a defibrillator at the entrance lobby. Okay, now we know this. So, welcome again, everybody, to our afternoon session about sustainable mice. And first of all, I want to thank you that you are here, spend the time and listen to what we and our panelists here have to say about that. My name is Peter Reelfs. I'm a sustainability advisor, I am a trainer, and I am an auditor. And I audit, among other schemes, event certification scheme that is active here in Sweden. So we have certified a lot of different type of events, meetings, congresses, small children festivals that destinations have arranged, but also big global international sports events we have certified here in Sweden. We certified the events, not the venues. With me today here, I have these 4 panelists. We have Virginie de Visscher, Alexandra Michat. Then we have Anja Hartung, and Mohamed, Firhan, Abdul, Salam, all experts in sustainable event planning and implementation. I will present all of them a little bit more in detail later on. Please allow me to give some general information before that. It is not only in the daily news that makes that clear that the way we treat people and the way we treat the environment is not working any longer well. We have to improve our behavior. We have to act more sustainable. And this is also something that we can not only read in the news, it is also something that a lot of us get as a feedback or as questions from our customers and our guests. They start demanding for a more responsible way of acting, the way we arrange and conduct our events. And although it's on everyone's lips, which is a big driver for us to act, it's also at the same time a driver that becomes a requirement for us. Because if we don't act today, we might be out of business tomorrow. There might be other companies who do what is needed that get the jobs, and if we don't act, we will not get the jobs. And that means we have to do a lot, not only a little bit, we have to do what is needed. So we have to secure our own business, we have to secure the jobs of the people that we are working with, even these jobs, helping us to construct our venues and keep the maintenance. And this is actually happening today already. That's the good news, of course, that a lot of people already are acting and taking responsibility to plan and conduct events and venues in a more sustainable way. If we look at one of the latest studies that the Amex, American Express Business Travel Corporation for 2024 has done, we can see that 4 out of 5 respondents say that their organizations are planning to have net zero goals by the end of this very year, 24. They say sustainability plays a key role also in the choice of the event location that they have. And already 1 out of 8 people say it's one of the top influential factors, the choice of event, to make your event more sustainable, to reduce also the emissions that are connected with traveling to and from the event. We don't only see that in this study from Amex, we also can see it in a similar study done by Globetrender Business Travel, which was conducted together with Citric Easy Amadeus, where one can hear and read, for example, that companies like PwC and Microsoft are setting ambitious targets to become net zero, which includes even the air travel that their people are doing when traveling in business, and what is happening a lot with these huge companies. And also looking how can we adopt the way we use energy, the amount and where it comes from. But a lot of these companies see, according to these studies, air travel as one of the major challenges. Almost a third of the respondees in the AMEX report say they try to looking at locations that minimize air travel to the attendees. But air travel is not the only challenge. We have other challenges. And in the same study, we can see that always 40% of the responders fight with identifying suppliers. Suppliers that are certified as sustainable or that can prove that they are really acting and implementing sustainability actions in their way of working. Other challenges are knowledge. A lot of their staff and also people they work with and where they buy their products are not really aware of the consequences of their actions, the choices that they make. And budget, of course, comes again and again also as something that is for many an important challenge. Which brings up the questions, can we afford to invest in sustainability, or can we afford not to invest in sustainability? Maybe you have seen the study that came out last week by the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research. According to that, we cannot wait, we should act immediately. So that's a very strong indication that we need to take action and do so more intensively than before. But let's hear from our experts how they are doing with these challenges and with other challenges in their way of working. First, we will hear from Virginie de Visscher. She is Executive Director of Business Events at Destination Canada. Virginie has been pivotal in enhancing Canada's role in the global business events arena, focusing on sustainability and innovation. Her leadership has advanced Canada's commitments to sustainability, making a significant impact by attracting international conferences aligned with the nation's priority sectors. As a Belgio-Canadian and a trained biosystems engineer, Virginie's work skillfully bridges the gap between environmental engineering and event planning. Please welcome Virginie de Visscher.
Merci. Bonjour à tous. Hello. I don't have a PowerPoint, so you're going to have to listen to me. I suppose, right, that most of you know where Canada is. Yes? How many of you have gone to Canada? Okay, not everyone. So we do have a perception challenge. Now, do you know how many times Sweden fits into Canada? 22 times. Canada is a massive country. Do we have someone from Botswana? Canada, your country would fit 17 times into Canada. Someone from Turkey? 13 times into Canada. And I heard people talking from Mauritius the other day. Mauritius would actually fit 5,000 times into Canada. So needless to say, we are a massive landmass. We are the second largest landmass in the world. We have the longest coastline in the world. When we say we work with our country, I work with more than 20 destinations from coast to coast to coast. We have 3 coasts bordering 3 oceans. And we have to work with all of them to ensure that they are more sustainable in their pathways. So we have a mammoth challenge. We call it a grizzly bear challenge. So when we started our journey, we wanted to be part of that solution. We needed to have business events that were going to be more sustainable. I'm not going to go into that debate. We are all here because we believe in that mission. But what was the role? So we're a national tourism organization. We're government's arm's length. We are not a regulatory body. We do not create policy. We do not have standards. We really are all about promotion and about research, which added an extra challenge. We do not have a sustainability mandate. within our organization. It doesn't fall onto us. So what we had to do was really from our own business line and then roll it out from there. So it started from passion, from really trying to make a difference, and not because it was obliged, not because we were asked to do it. So that created a challenge in its own. When we went, it was just during the pandemic, and we told all of our destinations, we're going to be more sustainable. And when we say more sustainable, we mean all pillars of it, from environmental to sociocultural and to economic sustainability. And this is rather new for events. We're still trying. And keep in mind, we're in North America. And here, the Nordics at least have been very advanced in terms of their movements and how they've been working with this. We don't benefit from that same advancement in Canada. So we were really starting from the beginning. So we launched what was called the National Business Event Sustainability Plan. So what does that mean? It was a three-phase plan, three-phase approach. The first phase that we really realized was that in order to speak about sustainability, we really needed everybody that we worked with to understand the concepts of sustainability. When someone's not comfortable talking about net zero, carbon neutral, all of these terms, how are they supposed to talk to clients who are hosting events about those same terms? So that was number one challenge, was to roll out a whole training plan for all of those destinations and staff that were working in business events all across the country. We span 4.5 time zones in Canada. It takes us 8 hours to fly from coast to coast. You actually don't have a direct plane that will do that. So phase number one, get everybody educated and on board. Phase number two is we needed a benchmark. How do we know where we are if we can't measure? Somebody said today or yesterday, measuring is treasure, or treasure is measure. I like that. So we needed something to start with. We were not ready to go to certification, but we just wanted to know, where are we at? We had some destinations that were very advanced. They had been on their own sustainability journey for a number of years, and some that really were not there. So we were dealing with a very strong diversity of cities and how far they were. So once the training was done, we decided on the benchmark. The benchmark that we used was the Global Destination Sustainability Index. That is the one that we chose. And so we had 16 cities all across Canada, representing all of the major provinces that participated in the GDS index. It's really interesting. It stemmed from the business events teams, but it was actually strongly led by the destination development teams within each of these DMOs and organizations across the country. So painstakingly, they all went through that exercise, and as you can imagine, the results were very diverse, all spanning across, but it was not about the result. It was not about what your grade was. It was really about where you stood, that you actually were on the train, that you participated in the journey, and that was made very clear to all of our destinations, that that was the end goal, was just to benchmark, and then we can grow from there, and that you have to get on the journey. And then phase 3 was all about storytelling. We hear a lot about greenwashing, green hushing, and everything in between. What we wanted to do is start telling the story. If you tell your story, you start to own it and you believe in it. But how do you do that in a humble way? We're by all means not perfect, and we're not that great, but we do have a story to tell. And so how do you train all of our destinations and partners about telling their own story? And remember, we're a marketing organization at first, so we were able to tell that story. So that is ongoing. We did a story masterclass for all of our partners, and then it's going to come out in different shapes and forms. That's actually what it was. So that was our journey in regards to the National Business Events Sustainability Plan. Other things that we've done, we're walking the talk. So we don't organize many events ourselves, but we're really trying to change how events are run. And I thought, well, if I'm going to promote sustainable events, I need to run one of my own and see how hard it is or how easy it is. So we run a few events, we do. So one of them, for example, is called Innovate Canada. It is hosted in Canada, and we host clients for that and partners. And with about 6 months before the event, I said, we're going to run it carbon neutral. We're going to measure it. We're going to measure all of our carbon footprint, all of our waste, and go from there. So that was very new. We took on the challenge. I decided that we would align it with the UN SDGs as well. We had never done that. We learned quite a few lessons. At first, we decided to align with 12 of them. I don't hear anybody laugh, but that was a very bad idea. We then scaled down much more, and we learned. And then from now on, all of the events that we run from the business events team at Destination Canada are run as carbon neutral events. And by carbon neutral, I mean that we try to reduce as much as we can, and we offset the portion that we cannot. I mentioned the size of our country. It's very hard to bicycle across the country or even take a boat. We do have to fly. So until we find a solution for that, it's still not possible. And I see that I'm running out of time. But that's the beginning of our story, and I'd be happy to tell you more about where we take this at the next level. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Virginie, for this input. I liked really the comparison of the size, because you never really grab it if you look on the map. If you hear, and Sweden is actually, we think, a big country. And if you hear it's 22 times fits into Canada, that's amazing. That shows also the challenges here you are fighting with to make the events more sustainable. Thank you very much. If you have any questions to Virginie and also to the other panelists, please keep in mind there is Slido that you can use already now. You don't have to wait to the end. Just write them down, and in the end we will show the questions and answer them. Okay, next on stage here is Alexandra Michat. She is a Chief Purpose Officer for Exo Travel, and she began her career as in non-profit organizations before moving to public sector, and focused there on development and international cooperation. Her work in social and solidarity economy and promoting social inclusion paved her path to Exo Travel in 2014. Initially, she worked as a sustainability coordinator, leading the Travel Life certification, and became later the Director of Sustainability for the Exo Travel Group. In 2022, Alexandra was appointed Chief Purpose Officer, overseeing sustainability strategies, the Exo Foundation, and contributing significantly to Exo culture and people development. She plays a vital role in shaping the strategic direction of the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alexandra Michat.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here with you today, sharing about our experience as a destination management company, and taking you to the other side of the world, depends how you see the map, to Asia, where we've been operating for more than 30 years. So, Exo Travel, we organize mainly incentive events for companies from source markets that are Europeans that travels to Asia for trips that they organize mainly to reward their employees for their best performers. So it's really experiences that they are seeking, and so visiting our amazing destinations. We've been doing it for 30 years, and over 30 years we see a real evolution and new trends. So this is what I'm going to share with you today. Just a couple of words about the certification. So we've been Travel Life certified in the past, and now we are B Corp certified. So as a sustainably certified DMC, we do our best, of course, to operate sustainably, to report on what we are doing, to be transparent. And with B Corp, we've been working a lot around our purpose. What is our purpose? Where do we place the line between what we want to sell, what we don't want to sell, and the clients that we choose to work with? So our purpose is to expand the horizon and create lasting positive impact. So this may sound a bit generic, but that's really useful for our team and for us to center ourselves. So we are working with a very wide supply chain. We are encouraging our supplier, of course, to be more sustainable. We are encouraging them to take self-assessments. We are sharing best practice studies. We are trying to make our events as sustainable as possible, of course, but the challenge we face is that we organize a limited number of events per year for a small number of travelers, so we have little leverage to really make them change their practices. So that's one of the challenge I wanted to share with you today. And I wanted to share also about our clients and the trends we see. So incentive and events for us have been quite strong. We had great years, 2015, 2018, and even before COVID, we had lots of requests, and suddenly everything dropped, of course, during COVID, and our countries were closed for close to 3 years, where we had no business activity at all. And then it started it came back really quickly, way faster than what we expected, very strongly. And but now what we foresee in the discussion we have with our client is a decline. And especially because we are working with mature markets that have been coming, and our clients have been coming to Asia for a very long time, and now they are, for many reasons, but for reasons that are about sustainability reporting, about the fact that they've already experienced like a famous touristic hotspot in Asia. They want to find other experiences closer to home. So that brought us to having analyzed new typologies of our clients that are evolving. So they are the ones that stopped selling long-haul events, and they are telling us that they only focus on local, which is great, and developing new products closer to them. Solution seekers, so the ones that really want to find ways to minimize their impact, to organize even differently. So these are our preferred ones. And then the ones that want to continue to do business as usual and are not really interested into sustainability. We also see a new type of activity, new requests from clients, so new products that we have to develop, off the beaten track, survivor activities, retreats of executive, more like out of the way, more trekking, walking, and a lot more requests on giving back, activities that support the community, so which is always challenging for us because we have to make sure that it creates lasting positive impact. So we work with the network of vetted organizations, with our foundation, making sure that, that those projects will have a positive impact. We also work with new tools. We've been talking about carbon emission, so we have new tools that are now great, allowing us and our team, while making the proposal, to analyze the carbon footprint and to help our clients to make informed choice. So it's specifically tailored for events where we can have the venue, we can have the accommodation, the type of meal, whether it's open bar, is it going to be alcoholic beverage or not. So we can really see very precisely and help our clients. So this is really a target for us that's very important, that we empower them and we work together to reduce their footprint. And other challenges I wanted to share with you today was it's hard to work on MICE proposal. It's a lot of detail, a lot of hours of work we put into to make those proposals without any certainty that is going to be confirmed. Maybe they will not go to Thailand, they'd rather go to Canada. So we are a bit struggling with when we work with communities, with locally owned suppliers, we ask them to put in efforts, work that is not rewarded. So that's something we are very concerned about and trying to change. We want also to have better impact measurement. So some example I've shared today, but we want to go further. And also, if the demands continue to lessen for us, we are going to have to pivot our teams, and there are people that are incredibly knowledgeable, amazingly skilled, so we're not worried at all. There are a lot of work for them and a lot of other segments, luxe, ultra luxe, where we have a lot of demand. But again, this is from our perspective, offering MICE events long haul in Asia from source market in Europe, but of course the MICE trend in our destination in China, in India, is of course growing much faster. But this is just, yes, from our point of view, I think it's important to clarify. And my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. It was very interesting to hear, and also nice to see the tools that you have developed, where you calculate the footprint with everything, including food and the accommodation. That's, I guess, a very helpful tool to teach also your customers. Great. Thank you very much for that input. Okay. Before we go into discussions, we have the next one here, which is Anja Hartung, the founder of LoopNordic. And Anja is a recognized expert with more than 25 years of experience in business tourism, meetings, and congresses, and is currently the owner of LoopNordic. She worked at Visit Denmark for over a decade, where she marketed the country as an ideal location for meetings. Recognized for her strategic insights, Anja has significantly influenced industry standards in meeting design and strategic partnerships. LoopNordic, her company, is a marketing and PR agency focused on the tourism and experience industry. Anja works with destinations and private companies specializing in business to and from the Nordic region to provide effective and tailored marketing solutions. Please welcome Anja Hartung.
Thank you very much, Peter. I'm very impressed. Nobody can ever pronounce my name, but you managed very well. Thank you. So very inspiring talks here already. I was thinking what to bring to you today, and I chose to take a little bit different angle into sustainability, so I hope you are up for that, and I hope also we can have a discussion on it afterwards. So as I say here, there's no such thing as a sustainable meeting. Well, Virginie, she just proved that wrong, as you, of course, you can offset what you can't make sustainable. So, of course, there is. However, most meetings, they do have emissions, they bring emissions. They do have food waste. They have a negative social impact, people being away from families and so on, like you are right now. Even it's really nice to be here in Stockholm. But it's also a force for good. And I was very inspired by Mr. Reinfeldt's speech yesterday about what tourism brings to all of us, or to the world. And definitely I believe that business tourism, or MICE, is also a force for good, because there's a lot of exchange between companies, between countries and organizations. So I would go as far as to say that meetings can change the world and for sure expand our horizons. I think we all experience that these days. So, of course, what we have talked about already, let's commit to reducing our environmental impact in all the different ways. I think there's a lot of progression within this. Of course, I'm also from one of these Scandinavian markets. We have worked a lot with this over many years. There's still so much to be done. But I actually do see some interesting development. I think here the development has been very much supplier driven. But now comes a big shift. The clients, they really want to, or they really go in and demand sustainability measures in a different way, like you also mentioned in the beginning. So we very much see that. I was just part of doing a survey on the Danish meeting market, and the Danish meeting planners is up to 67% where it plays a major role in when they make their decision making. So compared to the numbers you had, it's in Denmark very important now. But also a lot of meetings or companies don't think so much about it, but what I see is that the younger generations, they will demand it. I was just talking to some meeting planners, asking them, they were like, oh no, we're not so much into that. Our CEO, he doesn't really care that much. And then I said to them, okay, what about the young people who come for your meetings? Oh, that's a different thing. They ask those nasty questions. So it will come now, both legislation and the demands from the younger generations. So we should keep this development on the supplier and destination side. But what I really wanted to talk about now is how can we also, except doing all those sustainability initiatives, how can we also work on maximizing the value delivered in the meetings of our clients? This is an area I have worked quite a lot with and I find extremely important. Because when people go to meetings, you know, they don't go there because there are 4 nice walls and a nice, or the best coffee in the world even. They go there because there is a purpose of it. Every company, every organization, they want to go from A to B or to Z maybe, and the meeting is just a touch point. It's a part of that way. And this, I think is very obvious, but I think also it's something we very often tend to forget in the supplier side of things. So we are more into the logistics, how can we fix the meeting, you know, maybe being a lot, acting like an order taker. And what I actually recommend is that we, as an industry, both the destinations and all the venues, all the supplier side, that we start to become more like advisors, really going into, you know, why is the company having this meeting? What is the purpose of it? What they want to get out of it? And then we support the client in getting more out of it. So what does this have to do with sustainability? Well, my point is that, you know, there will be some emissions, there will be some food waste, etc. But if we at least make sure that the meetings are better, then the whole calculation becomes better. And then to really understand this, I think it's important to see where are the clients also after the pandemic, what kind of shifts have we seen? And what I think is going on is that, of course, companies are looking on the financial side, how much money do they use? Today, they also look very much on the time invested. I think there's been the focus on that has really increased after the pandemic, also with the delegates themselves. They're more, you know, concerned what they're using their time for. And then, of course, CO2 emissions or resource waste that is involved in the meeting. So all in all, this gives a high focus on return on meeting investment. And this is actually what I'm trying to say. On the supplier side, we should really go into that and being part of the solution on that. So that we help people to get better meetings. So it's always, or sometimes it's more easy to understand something when you say what it's not. So a good meeting is not a meeting like this that you see here. It doesn't create value if we have boredom, lack of focus, feeling of isolation. They actually distract our meeting value. So what do people want? And again, there have been some shifts after the pandemic. So here we see this graph is based on a survey from the media Skift. And if you don't know Skift, you should look into it. It's the tourism media. So they did a survey for 15,000 meeting planners. And over here to this side, we see that before the pandemic, the most important when they arranged meetings was the actual content. The second important was the networking in a classical understanding, and then the entertainment bit. And after the pandemic, you see that something new came on. So there was a shift. And on top was now something called meaningful connections, a whole new description, whole new wording. And what is that? So if you compare to more traditional networking, to me at least, it's really where you bring people together, make them talk about the topics, the challenges, the problems you have in your company, also the social part, but more than just networking with a little glass of wine. You actually facilitate that. And this is important, of course, where most information today you can just share then do an online meeting. That's better for the environment. If you actually bring people together, use that money, time, and CO2, then actually make sure that you get something out of it. And then on number 2 was entertainment, on number 3, content. This survey was made just after the pandemic. What we can see now is that content has moved up a bit more, but it's still meaningful connections in top. And I do think that this meeting we're all attending these days has really important parts that support that meaningful connection. So just this, that we shift between venues, we have very informal talks, there are longer breaks. I think they're very good examples in this meeting. Because what creates value? Well, what built these meaningful connections? it's all about learning new things, improve your collaboration, get better skills, motivation, and actually fostering job love, and just giving people a lot of experience also. So a lot of people's daily life is behind the screens at home, so when they go out, they really want to interact. And that's where just to come back to that, and then I will finish soon, sorry. So that's where I think that suppliers and destinations must take a greater responsibility for the outcomes of the meetings they host. And this is a crucial aspect of sustainability. I had a lot of examples how you can do. That will be for later, maybe. I will skip that, so we keep the time. I will just mention this one, because until now, I have talked a lot about how we can increase the satisfaction and the meaningful connections for the people attending the meetings. I also do think that there is a lot of possibility to increase the value for the destination, for the local communities that host the meetings. So again, using an example from our own meeting these days, there are so many clever, talented, intelligent tourism people here, a lot of knowledge. So an example of that would be if some of you had gone out to if it had been arranged that you would go out to universities, share some of that knowledge and so on. That's, where you can make a legacy from a meeting, where you can extend the value of a meeting and also making value for the local community. So my message here today is very simple. Let's be part of the solution. Let's see our industry as something that actually can improve the world and widen the horizons. I think there's a need for it out there.
Thank you, Anja. I really like your point that if we do environmental impact, that we get the most out of it when we meet really. I guess this is a very important essence to make the meetings that we have more engaging, entertaining, interesting for the people. And I've seen you have a lot of questions you couldn't answer, so maybe there comes some question via Slido at the end so that you can get this. Otherwise, you can talk to Anja also later after our panel here. So, last but not least, the only man in our panel here, Mohamed Firhan Abdul Salam. He is a Deputy Director Convention of the Singapore Tourism Board. And he joined the Singapore Tourism Board 2009 and spent a good part of his career managing a few boards overseas, regional office in the Middle East and Indonesia. He is currently responsible for competitively positioning and enhancing Singapore as a leading destination for associations, congresses, and meetings. Mohamed Firhan is an experienced marketing strategist. He works in regional offices and head office in Singapore, includes managing partnerships and business development to position Singapore as a premier leisure and business destination. Previously, he was in charge of business development at the BT MICE department, which aimed to secure globally significant business events in Singapore, particularly for the urban solution sector to drive industry growth. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mohamed Firhan Abdul Salam. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the warm welcome. I come from Singapore, so it's a nice change in weather to be here, and I think today I'm going to share a bit of the Asian perspective and where we think Singapore's space is in terms of our approach to sustainable events. Sustainability is definitely not new or a recent endeavor for Singapore. I think as a small city-state, a low-lying city-state in Southeast Asia, the size of 733 square kilometers, I wouldn't want to hazard a guess how many of Singapore we can fit into Canada. But when we did the check for Stockholm, that's 1 in 1,000. The size of Singapore is 1 over 1,000 the size. So that's going to be much more smaller than Canada for sure. And we are home to 5.5 million residents in Singapore. And that's half the resident population in Stockholm. So despite our size and considering the limitations, it is crucial for us to plan and transition towards a sustainable future in all areas. Therefore, we are determined to seize green opportunities to, one, for economic growth. Second is to leverage innovation to overcome our constraints. In 2020, acknowledging the global challenge of climate change, we launched the national plan, which is called the Singapore Green Plan. This is a multi-agency plan in Singapore, which sets forth ambitious and tangible targets for the next decade, bolstering Singapore's commitment under UN SDG and also the Paris Agreement. And this positions us to work ultimately towards the goal of achieving net zero by 2050. There are 5 pillars under the Singapore Green Plan. First one is City in Nature. This is really about integrating nature into the urban and built environment of Singapore. Second, Sustainable Living. This is about encouraging sustainability initiatives such as waste reduction through active citizenry. Next is Energy Reset. Energy Reset is simply about increasing solar deployment and also reducing energy consumption in Singapore through cleaner energy sources and also introduction of electric vehicles in Singapore. The green economy is about greening our industries and positioning Singapore as a sustainable tourism destination. And the last pillar about resilient future, it is about ensuring protection for our coast and flood protection, including food security needs. So where does MICE fit in all of this? MICE comes under the green economy pillar because MICE is an economic driver for Singapore, and we set ourselves a target of becoming a sustainable tourism destination by 2030. Right? So where are we now? These figures represent an average environmental impact of one event in Singapore. It's quite staggering. And if you look on Singapore's context, MICE contributes about 1% of Singapore's GDP. Overall tourism is about 4% of GDP, so MICE is a bit smaller, 1%, but about 34,000 jobs. And in terms of economic value add, that's about $3.8 billion, right? And we have taken a whole of nation approach across the government and industry through a lot of engagement with our local industry to really align our efforts to ensure that the objective of our MICE sustainability goals are aligned with the industry as well. Through these engagements, we have identified the need for 1, clarity of standards, 2, certification, 3, education and training, and 4, innovative solutions. Oops. I want to point you to this compelling statistics, I think from a report that earlier on Peter also shared from the Amex Global Business Travel report in 2024. On the right, on the table 1, you can see that it is evident that the Asia region or Asia Pacific region leads the proportion of organizations with clearly stated or clearly defined net zero goals, far ahead of other regions. But we are confronted with a sobering reality on table 2. You will see that Asia is also the region that faces a lot of challenges in identifying MICE certified suppliers or sustainability certified suppliers. So this juxtaposition really underscores the timeliness of our efforts and the significance of 2 critical factors for our region, or at least for Singapore. 1 is certification, 2nd is measurement. As we chart the course for MICE sustainability in Singapore, we have identified 3 key strategies that will drive our industry forward towards a greener and more responsible future. 1 is really raising sustainability standards, 2, innovating existing processes, and 3, raising awareness. Through these strategies, we have set forth very specific and concrete targets that will drive our sustainability efforts moving forward. The first one, standards, is to develop a set of sustainability standards by 2023 that the industry can really apply, and we have already done that. 2, certification for all 6 of the purpose-built MICE venues in Singapore and 80% of SASIOS. SASIOS is our local MICE association in Singapore, to obtain sustainability certification by 2025, and this is already on the way with good progress. And 3, measurement for the Singapore MICE industry to start tracking waste and carbon emission by 2023, which we also have already embarked on this process. And lastly, I think to establish Singapore as a credible, sustainable destination, we have actively engaged international benchmarking efforts. In 2022, STB joined the GDSI, to benchmark environmental performance for our MICE industry against other destinations. In 2023, we've actually improved 18 places in ranking to be ranked second in APAC and 17 positions globally out of 100 destinations. In January 2023, Singapore was also certified as a sustainable destination based on GSTC's destination criteria. So that's where we are currently. The work, I think, is only beginning. There's only so much. There's so much more to be done, and I think, like Virginie mentioned, you know, the game is really to get started, and where do we go from here? We can have a bit more discussion on some of our plans later. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Firhan, and it was interesting to hear the goals that you have and the challenges that you are facing at the same time, which make a big effort for you to really start to drive the change. Thank you very much for that. We have some questions coming up. Remember Slido, and I have also some questions myself here, but I think I start with the questions that are here on Slido first, and the first is coming from Patrick Richards. Given the emissions from the air travel component on MICE, are you as event organizers collaborating with airlines on sustainable aviation fuel, SAF? It's a question that everyone might be answering, but is someone who has...
I can start on that one.
Yes.
So we have two major carriers in Canada, Air Canada and WestJet, and while our role is not to advocate or to regulate, we do push a lot behind the scenes for them to increase their use of sustainable aviation fuel or to find other alternatives. So while you know, we don't have an active role, we have an influencing role in pushing that.
Okay.
I think if I can add, in Singapore, we also have a sustainable aviation roadmap and blueprint. So we work with the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore. Starting from 2026, all airlines departing Singapore, there'll be a levy on the passengers departing, starting at 1%, and that will gradually increase. I know that's maybe a conservative amount compared to maybe our Western counterparts, but that's a start for Singapore. Yep.
Yeah, great. I think sustainable aviation fuel is often named also as a solution, and it would be a good solution. The problem here is, of course, also availability of the right amount. Is this something that you already have in mind when thinking about switching there with your collaborators?
I think there's plans, I think, in Singapore for the production, is to simulate this production in Singapore. That's why I think we're starting with conservative amount of 1%. The plan is to increase that gradually, and there are production facilities in Singapore as well. So I think that's where we are starting from in terms of the base.
It's really scalability of the product, right? And getting access of it. I think as Canada, we're also looking not just as SAF, but we're looking at hydrogen solutions. We also have partnerships with a Swedish company actually to look at producing electric planes for small haul, short haul flights. So it's a variety of options that will help advance the sector.
Yes, Anja.
It's actually because it is maybe the biggest challenge for the MICE industry is the problems with aviation, and I just think that the MICE world should go together and really start to lobby very hard on the aviation, because things has to be speeded up.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned earlier, people still need to meet. There are really good reasons. We don't have to stop to meet. It will have such a big minus for the whole world if people stop to meet.
Yeah, and we want to meet also. I mean, it's one thing that you can meet on Zoom and Teams, but to meet in real life has another quality, of course, that we all don't want to miss. Great. I have a question here to you at Exo Travel. What tools do you use for helping smaller companies measure their carbon impacts?
What tool do we use for small companies to measure their
carbon impacts? That's the question.
For our suppliers? Yes. So, is that the question?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah. What tools do you use for helping? Come from Lina Khalid.
So the suppliers, right? Yeah. The tool I've shown, Pass Net Zero, is our main partner for having access to carbon data. The thing is that they use a set of available data from academia and from research, so we can have. It's very easy for transport. It's based on the routing. For food also, it's quite straightforward. For accommodation, it's based on average data per number of stars and based on the location and the sourcing of energy in this destination. And what we are trying to work on with them is get our supplier to, yes, indeed, measure their carbon emissions so that when we select in the tool a hotel, we have their actual carbon footprint and not an average based on the destination and the level, the number of stars. So this is something that we are working with Hotel Resilient, we are working on. So it's also a tool for our suppliers that they go on and that helps them to measure their carbon footprint. And then there is an API that will connect both our partners, Hotel Resilient and Pass Net Zero, to get this data more accurate. We also, on our side, input the carbon units, we call them, in our reservation software. So for each service line, there is a carbon unit that is attached. And then we can help our clients and really analyze with like accurate reporting. Basically, it's again, it's transport, accommodation, and meals.
What type of reactions do you get when you have calculated the footprint? I am sure there are some people who are very surprised when they see how much one choice has compared to another choice. And does that lead also to a change of choice then?
We have actually, yes, this is what we wanted to do, and what we want to work on with our clients is to have this conversation. Let's look together at the carbon footprint. Let's try to work out on reduction targets together and make different choices in the itinerary. For MICE, it's more before the decision-making process. So it's really working out with them, and maybe an extra night here. Maybe we should not include a local transport to this activity. Spend more time together in the place rather than wanting to do too many things, because that's often what we find. So having this tool helps us to work out that with our clients.
Okay, thank you. We have another question here. Firhan, how does Singapore mobilize the whole industry to achieve the goals of the MICE sustainability roadmap?
How do we mobilize the industry?
Yes.
I think Singapore, given its small or compact size, we have been very fortunate that we have access and oversight of our industry. We work very closely with our industry through the associations and also other stakeholders. There are regular engagements that we do with our MICE industry. I think the purpose of this regular engagement is really to gather their practical insights. Then that will help us when we do policy making, really to inform the policy so that it is both effective and also something that the industry is willing to adopt. It also gives, I think, the regular engagement and consensus building allows us to also get buy-in and also sort of have a joint ownership with them over the targets and the goal, our sustainability goals. So that's very important for us, and I think we've managed that fairly well, only because the industry may not be as huge as other countries. But that process of engaging the private sector as part of policy making is very important for us. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question that came up also in the AMEX study that you also mentioned about the stakeholder engagement. Maybe you can something about that. How important is the stakeholder engagement for the MICE sector, also all stakeholders, suppliers, attendees, and also sponsors when you want to achieve your sustainability goals?
I think we couldn't do it without them. I'd like to take two angles to answer that question. When we rolled out a national plan, well, we are, for example, 22 times the size of Sweden. We're only 4 times the population. Mm-hmm. So we're a smallish population scattered across such a big country. So stakeholder engagement is we just can't get all together in one place. So everything has to be done virtually, and those discussions have to be done regular times. I won't say we beg to get everybody on board, but it was multiple discussions, and there was lots of pushback. It wasn't like, oh, great, let's do this. It was not easy. It took quite a while, and that's one thing we really learned as well. Is I wish we had taken more time to prep our partner destinations into this and get them to contribute a little bit more before we rolled out this big plan. So we learned quite a bit on that. When you take the events angle. On that front, we found that the best way to run a more sustainable event was to engage everybody and communicate. We had a attendee roadmap that showed all of the efforts that we were doing. We were showcasing it in our app, in the emails that went out to the attendees ahead of time. We had it in their hotel rooms on the TVs. We put it up at every digital signage. We got them to contribute to the discussions. We reiterated it every meal. Like, it was that made it a success. Otherwise, people don't necessarily understand or see everything you're trying to do. So it was really important.
Yeah. Are there any strategies that have proven to be particularly effective? You have a lot of struggle there also, and also that goes in line with a question that is coming from Anonymous here. How can we ensure the sustainability on the entire MICE value chain to build resilient supplier chains?
Well, I think that's we have to acknowledge that I suppose the MICE value chain is a complex one. At least from our perspective, we work with event owners, event organizers, venue, stand contractors, stand builders, caterers, and the whole chain. And I think we have to acknowledge that everybody is at different stage of their sustainability journey, right? And I think first is just to acknowledge that they're all at different parts of the journey, and how does someone like maybe an NTO or DMO how do we sort of galvanize them and provide the tools to support them? So we do so via tools, resources, and also we have incentives to help them towards our sustainability, our joint sustainability goals. It's a bit of a carrot and stick approach. The carrots are the resources, tools, and sometimes incentives that we use. The stick, on the other hand, could be a carbon tax that we introduced in 2019. Also, a very modest, maybe by Western standards, but it is the first in Southeast Asia in 2019. We introduced the carbon tax in Singapore. It will obviously progressively be increased with the intention to have a price signal to the market that, this is the direction we are going. You better be on board or it's going to be costly for you. Yeah, so that's sort of the general direction we are going and how to get the industry moving with us.
Yeah, thank you. Carrot and stick often is a good tool to use. Yeah, thank you. Anja.
And I've experienced also a good technique, a way to speed up the development on the supplier side. Can also be by engaging the local market, the domestic market, and actually educating them, because suppliers or companies, venues, etc., will in the end not really do the things before the demand is there. Yeah. So, for example, I'm doing some work now for the Visit Faroe Islands, small country as well, and there actually we are working with the HR network of HR managers. They have some local ambassadors and so on, and we actually work with them and educating them, because then they start to demand, and then that speeds up the whole, because for many destinations the home market or the domestic market is the most important.
Yep.
So it's also a way, just a different way to work with it.
Great example, thank you very much. Alexandra, here's a question to you coming from Felicity Cousins. I hope I pronounce it right. How do you know all hotels are measuring their carbon emissions? Now the question disappeared. there. How do you know all hotels are measuring their carbon emissions the same way for?
Yeah.
Sorry.
They use the data we use is from the HCMI tool. So it's the same methodology. So in the data we use, it's a consistent methodology for all hotels. For hotels that haven't provided accurate data from their consumption, it's based on average, depending on the size of the property, depending on the type of facilities within the property, and so this is accessible data that is now open, and we can find. So for us, we go through our partner Net Zero to have access to this data, and what I was saying, we are trying to make it even more accurate by working with suppliers so that the measurement is based on the actual consumption, but now when the data is not available, we use average data based on size, amenities, and facilities.
Thank you. Measurement is interesting here. There is another question coming from Jonsik. Is there any good measurement tool we can consider that is international standard or broadly accepted for the mic sector? There it comes to a problem.
That's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, that's the elephant in the
but
room.
I guess,
exactly.
I mean, we have to mention that GSTC just developed a new standard.
Yes.
But it's actually, I mean, I haven't seen anything that is totally global. So I think it's a good framework. It's a good starting point.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is important because that's the problem with sustainability. It's so hard for the clients, I mean, to navigate and to find out about all these different certifications, different standards. It's a nightmare. If you're a global meeting planner, good luck.
Yeah.
And
And I
not
think
just that, but the carbon calculators, and there's a plethora of them, just like apps are popping up. Venues have them, hotels have them, event planners have them, different countries have them. So it's really complicated to find the right one.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think with we just wanted to add just now with the GSTC industry MICE criteria, the availability of the using common standards or internationally recognized standards, I think sets a common language that then everybody globally can use, and that's a good reference point. Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, my point is also, you know, there is an alternative to having live meetings. We might not think in our industry because we love it, but you know, if you're a CEO of a very big company, it's also easy to say we just do everything online. I mean, that's what we offer. So if we don't provide these solutions, also like I mentioned before, but also these solutions for making it easy for the clients, there will be other, it's more easy for them to make the other choice and stay home.
That's an interesting point with virtual. I mean, we were forced to do that for quite some time, but that changed also our perception of how to meet and that it's possible to do it virtually. Do you see any change after pandemic, that there are conferences that were held in place, maybe that they are now offering online, or maybe as an additional, you join on site, but you have also the possibility to join online in a meaningful set, not only maybe looking on stream, but that you can maybe interact with people that are on site? Is that something that you see, that people demand, ask for? Yes, please.
Well, I think we saw a big wave just after the first, everybody wanted to meet. And just after that, you know, what did we learn? Maybe we can use that. But in my mind, or what I see is like, there's not really any very strong cases or any very good tools to do this, and I just think it's natural. I mean, it's a human thing that people want to meet. But of course, many smaller meetings and more meetings where you just share information can be done with success online, and that's why when people then meet, they want to focus on these meaningful connections, creating that.
Yeah.
But let's be fair, like attending a conference online just sucks.
Yeah,
It's just terrible. I mean, it's hard enough here to have people not go on their phones all the time, right? We're attracted to them. Everybody has a phone in their hands. We have very short attention spans. So when we're sitting at our computer at home, let alone the time zone difference, I can't concentrate. Like we can listen to this panel online, but you can't have any of the discussion that will happen afterwards. So I have tons of meeting planners that are saying, I'm not organizing this online anymore because one, it's a cost issue.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to record everything or having live stream, and then two, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I think we hear from event organizers also the dual format. If you already have a physical meeting and then have it online, it adds to the cost tremendously logistically, and you have to do a lot more planning as well. And I think from our experience, you've seen events coming back on stream physically quite strongly in Singapore. So I think moving back to pre-pandemic times almost, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I share that something? If we're going to come together, let's have proper meeting designs so that we use
Exactly.
people in the room. Yeah. You know, the format the last few days is so one-directional, and that's old. It's not valuing the collective intelligence we all bring to this, the time, the carbon we've all emitted. We could do things better. So if you pass that to GSTC, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Guy. Maybe you also talked with the GSTC, and everyone heard it. You have a point, but we have at least a limited possibility to interact here with the Slido. But maybe there is something to consider for the future meetings.
We can take live questions.
Yeah, we can do that. Bring it on!
Yeah. Bring it on! Okay. Yes, okay, we do a live question. Who has a question and wants to speak up? Please. Yes.
I would like to ask you if you have seen the MICE criteria, the new version of GSTC, and which of these criteria do you believe that it is too much? They should be excluded in order to be more human-oriented in their application.
That's it.
Or let's say to help a more successful event. Because sometimes if it is so complicated something, finally it becomes overwhelmed and maybe not have the same success. So I would like to ask you.
But yeah, I think that the criteria are really a framework, and as you say, having a common language, how can we evaluate? Doesn't mean that we have to meet all the requirements or that you should seek perfection. You can take it as a step-by-step process. I don't think any criteria should be removed if they are here. They are from a consultation, several consultations, working group, people working, experts in the industry. So it's really about. What measure do we want to attach to? What proof of evidence do we want to give? How far are we ready to go? But it's for every organization to assess that and to see how far they want to go. That would be my answer to you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I don't have an idea which one should go out, but like what Guy just brought up and what I was talking about in the beginning, I think it's lacking that aspect. It's lacking that we take responsibility for the quality in the meetings we are doing. And we have to, it's a new paradigm, it's a shift of minds, it's new competences into this industry, because we need to be, as I said, a part of the solution, not just bringing 4 walls and some coffee. We need to help the clients to have better meetings, otherwise they can just better stay home. And that also, what does that entail? It entails also to use the space outside, bring people out in the nature so they forget to look into their telephones, meeting design in all kind of ways. There are many examples of that. And of course, this doesn't come by itself, because we are in an industry where people are trained to deliver the nice service, and it's a different focus. So if, as a destination, you want to do this, you need really to focus on it. So for example, in Denmark, we had a program called Motivation. We worked with all the suppliers for years and years and years, training them in meeting design, convincing them to try, not just to ask, okay, what time you want the coffee, actually ask, what is the purpose of your meeting? And for many people who come out of the traditional hospitality world, that's a very challenging question to ask. But actually, it's very natural, and most clients, they will be very happy. Oh, you're concerned about my meeting. A few clients will also say, well, you don't need to know that, I just want the meeting room. And then I say, okay, the reason I ask you is because then I can help you design a more fruitful meeting. So I think we need to take that step, because otherwise, what role do we play in the future?
You used the word successful meeting, and I think using that word, a successful meeting, is very subjective, because what is success to everybody? And a standard is only a certain part of what you would consider success. So, you know, people used to think that networking was so important at events, and so by just providing coffee in a room, your networking box was click, that was done. But that's no longer the case. You almost have to force networking. So by event design, you've got to change that. So by looking at what does success mean for that organization, then you'll be able to drive the outcome that you're wanting to see.
Exactly. And let's face it, I mean, even you put five really clever people up here, the amount of intelligence in the room and all the good examples and all the good ideas, it's much bigger. So I totally agree with Guy. We need to bring that together, use new formats that people get time to discuss, and also to kind of relate it to their own daily life. Because we all know the feeling, we come from a conference, we're really inspired, we want to go home, change everything, and then we hit the desk and nothing happened. So when you make people work with the things, discuss it with the people around them, you know, there are thousands of formats for that, then you gain more out of it. You go home, you do the change.
Yeah, then I encourage you and you all here to bring it up to the GSTC, because it was Randy who said yesterday, they are open, they want to hear what we think, they want to have suggestions. Come and bring it up so that we maybe have the next GSTC conference or the one after that maybe in a different format. So, do we have any other questions here directly that we want to speak up? Yes, Ayoko, please.
Concretely, thinking about Singapore in November, what might you, on this topic of optimizing meaningful connections, making sure that we have quality so that our impacts are worth it, I guess. So what might be some of the concrete ways that we make the next conference in Singapore more optimized in terms of quality of purpose and meaningful connections? What would you suggest?
Thank you very much for this open question from the GSTC. I give it directly to Guy, who's not sitting here.
Yeah, please.
But I think it's a useful feedback from Guy and also from yourself. I think this is something, if GSTC is open to altering some of the formats, that's something we look forward to working with them for the conference in Singapore in November. I think you're right, if people are flying in all the way from here or North America all the way to Singapore, we do want to make sure they have a meaningful conversation in Singapore, and how do we facilitate that. So thank you for that useful suggestion. We will discuss with GSTC.
That said, I think we can have concrete ideas, and maybe with this group there's a few options. For example, who thinks the lanyards are really a terrible thing?
Like, what?
The lanyards. I can't see them. I'm a certain age group, and I can't read anything that's on the lanyards, right, on the badges. So it's really hard for networking. I'm sorry. My glasses sit on my head instead of on my eyes. But having,
I'm taking notes.
Right? So make them big. You know, who cares about the title? Let's look at the name and where you're from, and have them visible to the naked eye. That's just one little suggestion. But how do you force networking? Anybody else have another great idea you want to throw out? Guy?
There is a role of a meeting architect, someone who designs meetings. It's a profession. Anja is one of the best, I think.
Oh, thank you. Good promotion. I'm coming to Singapore.
There's a skill in designing elements that roll into others, to co-creation, involvement, and you have the best. What's the canvas here? We have a drawing. So there's a lot of potentials from how you design. From the first moment you walk in the door to the line you leave, the engagement. So we leave here meeting 100, 200 people, not 23 that we just sat next to. And we've created something. That's the magic of this, right? We can create. That's the magic of meetings. We can co-create. Really cool stuff. We can advance the world of our knowledge.
And if I can also just mention, I think also when the meeting industry or the tourism industry is meeting themselves, we are missing an opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of learning, experimenting, you know, just finding out, does this work, discussing it, and so on, because this is what we have to bring to our clients.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I want to bring up another point. I think for the next meetings with the GSTC, they should also be fully accessible and inclusive. I have seen how Martin, who was leading the course on accessibility and inclusiveness, was struggling with a hotel and the premises here. I think that should not be the case. Everyone should have the possibility without any problems to take part in every base type of business. Okay, the time is almost up. Maybe a final question from my side with a boring one side.
You're doing good.
Here.
Don't worry.
Because I would like to hear from you, what do you think in the next 5 years will be the emerging trends in the mice industry? Maybe short from all of you. We start here with you again. With
finish with me. I have to think.
Finish with you, okay. Then we start with you first.
Emerging trends. I think data and tech is probably data and AI is probably going to be huge, and how they impact sustainability efforts and initiatives could be one big trend. We've already seen how a lot of companies and solution providers using data in food waste, sort of monitoring and tracking. We've seen data used to be tracked water, environmental indicators, and so on. So I think it's probably going to grow bigger, and there'll be more applications relevant for sustainability and mice. Yeah.
Thank you. Anja.
Well, I think the demand for transformative meetings, so I'm saying the same, but I think it will really grow. I think new generations, they're not going to sit back there. They can't. They're not built for it. They're built with a telephone in their hand. So, I mean, you can call it transformative meetings. You can call it a regenerative approach. Also, I mean, concrete that people want to engage with the regenerative activities or social economic activities, but also as a more meta thing, you know, that you want regenerative meetings. So you go there and you come home better, you improve things, you don't just go there, get your information, go home, do the same thing.
Great, thank you very much. Alexandra.
I don't know if it's a trend or more a wish, but yes, I think people are really concerned about the positive impact they can have on destinations. So having a meaningful transformational meeting, things that really connection that really matter. But at the same time, they want to have a positive impact on the destination they visit, and that it's always a highlight of a trip for a group to do something positive for the destination. So I'm really hoping that we can go further into that, and that it's not a tiny percentage of the events we plan that include that, but rather 100%.
Thank you very much.
So now yes. To add, before, when the pandemic happened in the meetings world, we all said meetings are going to change. Meetings are going to be so different, and we're learning so much, and then we come back and they're exactly the same. So I look forward to maybe in 5 years a more experiential events design that will update, so that when we go to conferences, we come back inspired and not just tired.
Yeah, thank you very much for these words. And my last wish again, I wish that in 5 years accessibility will be natural, that everyone can be joined. So, thank you very much for joining. We will have now a coffee break until 4 o'clock. And for those who are interested in the MICE criteria, we will have a workshop here where you can get to know the criteria better and start working in groups a little bit with them. So, thank you very much, and I hope I see some of you soon here.